Following is analysis of Mr. Wilcox's freestyle. Alright, the first thing we'd like to see is we want to make sure we grab our fingers and put them over the edge of the front of the blocks. That way we can use our upper body to propel ourselves forward off the blocks. As we can see here, Eric doesn't use his arms at all to get forward, and as a result he wastes a little bit of time before he gets his momentum moving forward. We'd also like to see him try to dive out a little bit further because he has strength and power, but here we can see that he really starts to dive deep and he doesn't get his hands together in streamline before he hits the water. Getting our hands into streamline is very important for making sure that we carry that top speed off of the wall. As a result, he goes very deep off of the start and he has to pick his head up and break his streamline to get back to the surface of the water. All this adds up to losing a lot of momentum off of the blocks. We want to make sure that when we break out, we don't come up and bring our whole face out of the water to take a breath. We got to make sure we keep that body position in its natural state so that we can go explode right into our first few strokes and maintain that top speed off of the wall. You see great elbow bend here, good body position. When we take a breath, we don't want to roll quite so far with our head. So we want to make sure we turn our head just enough so that we can get some air and then put it back down in that neutral body position, or neutral head position. As we can see, he really turns that head very far, his face all the way out of the water. We don't need to see almost his opposite ear pop out when he takes a breath. We want to make sure we turn just enough to get that air and then get back down. That's going to help us maintain the correct body position. It's also going to prevent us from over-rotating back in the other direction to compensate. When we see this turn here, we want to make sure our feet are shoulder-width apart when we push off the wall. Additionally, when we flip over, we don't want to roll over onto our stomach before we push off. We want to make sure we push off flat on our back and kick our way onto our stomach. That's going to allow us to spend as little time on the wall as possible, and it's going to allow us to carry as much momentum out of the wall as we carried into the wall. Here we can see that he comes up and takes his whole head and upper body out of the water on this breakout stroke again. We want to make sure we really keep that head down through the first three strokes to maintain the top speed off of the start and turn. We want to make sure we really pick up that kick tempo for a sprint 50. Additionally, we might want to consider breathing a little bit less often for a 50 freestyle. We want to make sure when we get to this finish, we roll all the way into that finish. We can finish on that stroke right here. We don't need to take this last stroke so close to the wall. Just rolling long and kicking hard into that finish will really allow us to finish on this last stroke right here instead of stroke. This is analysis of Eric's underwater freestyle. So as we can see, Eric goes very deep here on the start. So one thing that we can do is make sure that we're in a tight streamline before we even hit the water. And that when we can feel ourselves starting to go a little bit deep, we want to make sure that we get ourselves to banana back up to the surface by actually turning our body into this shape. That's going to help us get up to the surface very fast and prevent us from going quite so deep. You can see he almost touches and maybe even touches the bottom here. Additionally, we don't want to see his head come all the way out of the water in a breakout. As we can see, because he brings his head and upper body so high out of the water, he gets almost vertical in the water, and he loses all of that speed from the start because water is coming against his body this way. So we want to make sure that we keep that body as straight as possible the whole time. See, he does a very good job of not dropping that elbow and using his full arm to pull through all the way through the stroke, which is very excellent, difficult to do. He has natural strength that he needs to take advantage of through proper technique. Okay, once we get to this turn, we want to make sure that we push off flat on our back. Once we get to this point, that's when we want to push off. We don't want to roll onto our stomach before we push off, because that's going to allow us to waste a lot of time on the wall. Additionally, again, we see him come all the way out of the water, and we can see how much of his body is exposed to drag. So he slows down and loses all that momentum that he has off of the wall, which should be his second fastest point of a race. The first being off of the start. So we also see it looks as though he crosses his feet, his ankles and his feet here when he kicks. We want to make sure that he gets out of the habit of doing that so that he can kick through his full range of motion, which is going to allow him to use a lot more power, keep his body position much higher in the water, and it's also going to prevent his hips from snaking back and forth like they are right now. So as we can see, his hips bob from side to side instead of just rolling gently. So making sure we don't cross over that kick will really eliminate some of the efficiencies in our stroke as well.